Well, book fair was supposed to kick off today, but the unforeseen reason. However, though, we got some of the writers that were scheduled to be here. We welcomed them to St. Martin. They're still here. We got to say good morning to Cindy. She's in the committee. She's going to tell us what is happening. Cindy, good morning. Then, gentlemen, we go ladies first. After Cindy, we go ladies. Cindy, good morning.
Good morning, Brady. Thank you for having us on today. Good morning, St. Martin. Yes, today would have been the kickoff of our book fair activities.
21st anniversary.
21st, our theme, resistance. But we had to postpone it for, a very important reason. And that's the only reason. I mean, we had our book fair through the pandemic. So that to tell you how committed we are to making sure that St. Martin, has a book fair. But nevertheless, I bring greetings on behalf of our leader, Suja Ref, and I'll take this opportunity as well to extend, condolences to his family. He laid his dad to rest on yesterday, so I want to take this opportunity to do that as well. But and we have in our prayers and thoughts, but we want to make sure, that we embrace our authors that decided, despite the challenges, to still be here on the island with us. So this is why, we are having this event that is coming up on Friday evening. It's entitled Writers Retreat, where you'll have the opportunity to hear some exciting, new authors, existing authors, give us some interesting poetry reading. It would normally be our literary evening. It's going to be, of course, scaled back quite a bit. But we're going to hear from some of them in a few. I also wanted to highlight Dr. Renee Bailey. He was also going to have a book launch during the book fair as well. So he's also on the island for family purposes, of course. And he's Suja's cousin. So we're going to hear from him as well. Yeah. But we know book fair is going to happen in 2023. So listen out, for when we post that date.
Yeah, it is going to happen. We can't stop. Book fair must go on.
And we want to also, thank the House and AC publishers as well as our book fair committee member, Lisa Pingram, for, spearheading the group that came on this trip.
Very good.
So you'll hear from her as well.
So we say good morning to our guest. We got a lady with a camera there. I think she's a publisher, she said, right? Good morning. How you doing? Put your mic on. Just push the button that says push. Yeah.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I am doing better by the minute. Sitting here with y'all.
Better by the minute. Then this means the whole radio station is doing better by the minute too. Because the presence of you guys is good. We're in here. Yeah. Now, you said you're not a writer, you're a publisher?
I am a writer. They call me the book maven because I play a lot of different roles. So I am a writer myself. That's what I do for my own creative art. But I'm also a community-minded person, and so I want to be able to share my experiences and my wisdom with other people to help them get their work into the world too. So in the publishing aspect, I am an editor. I'm a book editor. So I'm the person who helps you get the book to where it needs to be. And I'm also the person who gives you the green light to say you got a book deal. And then I'm also a book publicist. So I help get the word out about books.
Wow.
And then I am what is called a book doula. A lot of people say that getting a book into the world is often like giving birth. There's a lot of stages to the process, and so I work with people to help them, step by step through the phase. So the people who of getting it into the world. So the people who are with us today are people that I've worked with in some capacity, one or more capacities in that way. In addition to being my writer family. Yes, everybody here is from DC. I'm originally from Washington D.C. So this is my arts community from DC finally colliding with my arts community in my new home in St. Martin.
St. Martin.
Yes.
That's good. What's your name? You said
Lisa Pegram.
Lisa Pegram. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Good morning.
We say good morning to.
Good morning.
Put your mic on. Just push. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Milani Douglas, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you here, Milani. Tell us about
you.
yourself. Well, I know now you're from D.C.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Baltimore, but I became an adult in D.C. This is my crew that I kind of grew up with, and I am a curator. I'm a writer and an
You're
artist.
also a curator?
Yeah.
Oh.
So this book is a book from an exhibition that I curated at the National Museum of Women in the Arts.
Wow.
Called Reclamation: Recipes, Remedies, and Rituals, where we open source recipes to be a part of an online exhibition during the pandemic. And Lisa submitted a recipe.
When we say the
Yes.
word recipe, then what do we mean?
Well, literally recipes that you can cook in the kitchen.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, as a I found, and I'm also the founder of a museum called the Family Arts Museum.
Wow.
The Family Arts Museum focuses on family as fine art, home as curated space, community as gallery. And so this exhibition is like a part of my work that shows that you can push what art means and what art can be, that the art of family is a fine art that we should work on preserving our memories, and sustaining the way that we connect inside of community. So this has a collection of recipes, rituals, and remedies. I asked people to submit. We had over 200 people from around the world that submitted recipes, remedies, and rituals. And we had 9 artists that during the pandemic, they showed us the art of caring for their families from their homes.
Wow.
And it has an online component that you can look up. We had a series called The Tea, where women perform music from their kitchen. I was trying to find as many ways to pay women artists as I could.
This is the pandemic. This is the pandemic that gave birth to this idea.
Yes. This
Wow.
the idea was originally birthed in 2015 when I founded the museum. Was looking at how families and communities connect through food and through other rituals. And so during the pandemic, when museums were shut down, we had to come up with a way that how do you have an exhibition if you don't have a museum?
Correct.
And that had been something I had already been working, and that's my work, right?
Okay.
And so expanding the museum beyond the museum model and bring it into community, into homes. I believe that the home is the first place that you curate, and family is your first fine art. So
Correct.
this was an example of how to bring it all together, and I got a chance to do that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. How you doing? It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sammy Miranda.
For some reason, I know your name had to be, your last name had to be some type Spanish name. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican.
Yes.
Podemos hablar español si tú quieres.
Como quiera usted, como quiera usted.
Yo soy de hormiguero.
Caribeños en la casa.
Yo soy de hormiguero.
Eso.
Tengo en casa en hormiguero. Si toda mi familia es de Puerto Rico.
Qué bien, qué bien.
Very good. So tell us about yourself, sir.
I'm originally from New York City. I'm a poet. I'm a teacher. I'm a visual artist. And I've been teaching for about 30 years now.
Wow.
And then doing visual work most of my adult life and poetry. I started writing poetry because of my students, actually. So they're the ones.
The teaching profession led you to that.
Yeah, it did, because basically students were like, "You want me to do what?" And I was like, "I want you to write." They're like, "Are you writing?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." Then you better get writing, because if you're not writing, I'm not writing.
That'll fix it.
So a lot of my firsts actually came with my students.
Wow.
Correct.
The first time I read at an open mic was with my students. The first time I read on a stage was with my students. The first time I lost a poetry competition was to one of my students.
Wow.
So yeah,
So you've been in it for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
So you would say though your profession is what got you into writing.
Absolutely.
What's passionate about what you do in terms of writing? What's the passion in it?
It's telling story. Really, it's poetry, but it's really looking at, because I'm a visual artist too. So, and a lot of what I do is portraiture, it's figurative work, and I think, actually, we were talking this morning about my grandfather. I would ask my grandfather, "Yo, abuelo, tell me something about when you were a kid."
Yeah.
He's like, "For what? It doesn't matter." So I'm like, I think a lot of my writing is to make that statement untrue for as many people as possible.
Very good, very good. I like that. I like that. Good morning, good morning.
Billy D.
Put your mic on. Put your mic on.
Good morning, Billy D.
You got a good history. You left this little island. You did well. You teacher, principal. Tell us about yourself.
So yeah, as you say, I'm home. This is where I was born. Played soccer right across the street all my years growing up. So moved to the U.S. as you know, 1980. Went into education. Was a teacher for 10 years, an assistant principal for 8 years, and then a principal for the final 12 years of my 30th career. And after I completed my doctoral dissertation in 2005, Sujo, my cousin that runs the book fair, said, "I need a copy of your dissertation." I said, "Okay." So he read it. He said, "Listen, you must write a book." So, being a principal is a 24-hour job. So I'm like, well, I'll think about it when I retired. So I retired in 2017, and I started thinking about it, and I look back at things that I did as a principal. So I decided, this is a place to go here. Being a lead principal and a trainer for principals, aspiring principals, and being one of the district in Miami-Dade County Public School, they said, my book, I'll do my book, and the title will be Leading Schools to Success. So that's what I do.
Leading school to success.
Leading schools to success.
What does it mean?
So leading schools to success means, as a principal, you are the leader of that school. You take full responsibility for that when you are appointed to be a principal.
Correct.
And as your supervisors will tell you, no one's putting a gun to your head to take this job. But when that phone rings, no matter what time it is, you're the one with full responsibility. You're the one that have to answer the questions 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, that building is yours.
Yeah.
So it have to be a commitment to be a successful principal. So during my years, my 12 years as principal, starting out, by the time I was retiring, I was the one that they will send principals in need of improvement to show them how things are done, because I ran a successful school, and then I will be the one mentoring assistant principals, becoming mentors. So it was a good platform for me. I will, and not only in the areas of the curriculum, it will be mostly in everything from leadership, the budget, personnel, how do you handle personnel, and that type of stuff.
Wow.
So I became a lead principal and a trainer principal. So I was like, I think I could do a book on this here. I have the time now.
Yeah.
So I started when I retired. It was ready to go in 2020, but then the pandemic hit.
Okay.
We shoot it back to 2023. And with the unfortunate passing of my uncle, who was like a dad, and Suja with his medical thing here, it's pushed back again, but nothing happens until it's ready to be released. Like she said, like Lisa said, a book is like giving birth. My God.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that's true.
And when you're going to give birth, they give you a due date, right? That's not promised.
There you go.
Estimate,
There you
right?
go.
It'll come in due time.
Yeah.
So going through that, I know there will be times Lasana will send something to me, the due date is like, look at this, and oh boy, this is new here. Okay, got to adjust to this here. So it was definitely like giving birth when I heard
The book is ready?
Yeah.
The book is now
The
ready?
book is in the printer's hand. Was supposed to be ready yesterday, but Sue just said with his medical issue, they didn't rush them, but he said it'll be ready next week.
It'll be ready next week.
Congratulations.
It's my first one. All of you
Yeah.
guys
Your
probably
bouncing
ready.
baby book.
All of you
I love
guys
it.
probably ready. Have books gone already. So
Good morning, sir.
Kimon Freeman.
Put your mic on.
Kimon Freeman, Angry Black Man in Therapy.
Tell us about yourself.
And I'm definitely angry this morning because I'm disappointed to find out that the racist colonial policy of American government called the Monroe Doctrine has been extended to the Caribbean islands. I have a friend from Cuba who was supposed to be here with us today, and they was denied a visa by Puerto Rico. I mean,
Wow.
St. Martin gave him a visa. Shout out to St. Martin. But
Yeah.
Puerto Rico? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. To see American imperialism being in effect in the midst of the islands. You're in the Caribbean. You can't even move freely around the islands.
Nope.
So I just had to lead with that.
And you can move free in Europe, but we can't move free in the
Yeah,
island.
you know what I'm saying? So, I just want to urge people to be a little bit more unaccepting of the current policies and situations. And the thing the pandemic has taught us is that how quickly things can change. And I think that we need to be more cognizant of our capacity to change some of these things.
Yeah, yeah. You're also an author. You wrote a book.
Yes, my book is called Nineveh. It's a conflict over water. It's Afrofuturism. The great writer Octavia Butler says, is it fiction for black people to imagine themselves in the future? And so I don't really look at this as being fictitious. I look at it as being Afrofuturism, where we get to determine for ourselves in our imagination, uninhibited by the current policies of American imperialism or white supremacy. This book is my pandemic baby as well. I think we got a lot of babies during the pandemic, and a lot of and a lot of work done, and a lot of writers have produced a lot of work. But what we need to understand is that water has been priced beyond affordability of the masses, forcing to collect rainwater, which is the new contraband.
Even here in St. Martin.
Even in St. Martin, you're paying more for water than you are for gas right now.
Yeah.
And we need to be understanding that. And by the year 2050, it's been predicted that there will be more plastic than fish in our ocean. This is
The
unsustainable.
year 2050.
Yes, and so we need to understand that we need to be cognizant of that. These plastic bottles, and most of it is made outside of your area.
Yeah.
It's imported. That is still a colonial construct and economic situation that's exploitative and extractive. That's our word for today. You know, what are you contributing to this relationship? Are you contributing more than you are extracting? And I think that we need to understand that the most precious resource on the planet is water.
Yeah.
And I say water just like that because water is taken for granted. Water is valuable down to the
Because
very
we say one water.
yes, down to the very last drop. So this is like part journalism, part mythic drama. It tells a story of the global water corporation, the fascist regimes that's taken over the planet, and the resistance that has risen to the occasion to challenge.
When you wrote that book, were you angry?
I'm angry all the time.
Stay mad.
unless I got a drink in my hand and I'm chilling.
Stay mad and in therapy.
So do we go?
Well, if you're going to write good books being mad, man, stay mad.
Yeah, I think anger has gotten a bad rap. People look at anger as a pejorative, and I too run a independent radio station in Washington D.C. It's not as lovely as this wonderful setup
Yeah,
we have
we
here.
did what we got to do.
But it's a brick and mortar studio with a digital platform, so I have an outlet for my anger.
Yeah.
But that's a progressive talk radio station in the heart of the nation's capital. So so I'm bombarded with a lot of negative information. So I have choices of being intimidated or discouraged or depressed, or I can be angry. And the only choice of those emotions that is useful to me is the anger. It's my rocket fuel, and it keeps me going.
Yeah.
And as like Malcolm X said, that you get sad, you don't do anything, but when you get upset, it drives you to action. And so my station is We Act Radio, and our tagline is Do Something, and that's what keeps me going.
Even though we didn't get the original book fair, this sounds so good today.
Oh,
I'm enjoying.
And I'm honored to be here, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you too. This is still a dynamic
Oh,
moment.
definitely. So that we come out on Friday evening.
Tomorrow night.
Indeed, tomorrow
Yes,
night.
Where's it
tomorrow
happening?
night. It's at S.O.S Cafe.
Soul Cafe.
Yes.
Shout out to Dr. Rhoda Arundel.
Yes, indeed. And we all know it's in St. John's Estate. And there's ample parking, so there's no parking issues. So we hope to see you then for a vibrant evening of poetry and prose. So we have authors also locally. So we're gonna have some local authors.
Absolutely.
We have our DC crew here.
Yeah.
We're gonna have from Chicago and Massachusetts as well.
Yes, and so is Liz landing as we speak.
There you go. So it's gonna be, our version of a pre-book fair event, leading up to what's happening later on in the year. So I hope to see everyone out tomorrow, and it's free.
And it's free.
And it's a
And
free
free.
event. It's
Yes,
a
there
free
will be
event.
books. There will be books, and you can get your book signed too.
Yes,
by
and
these,
book
all
signing.
these wonderful authors.
And book signing. And that's a unique opportunity as well, to meet with authors one-on-one. So I hope you take advantage of the opportunity and we can hear the various themes and topics discussed. So there's something for everyone. There's
All
something
right.
for everyone.
Before, I just want to bring up, though, what pulled you into writing? This is a question I want to cross the board. What really pulled you? A lot of us sometimes we write because it's our story. We just spoke to him. You could feel the passion, your story. What pushed you into writing? And we start by you. What pushed you into writing?
Okay, what's pushed me into writing? Reading pushed me into writing. Reading. As a child, I started reading when I was 3. I'm an avid reader. My grandfather was an English professor, so I come from a family of academics, and they were like, you read. I always learned from a small child that the most revolutionary thing a black person can do is read.
But
When we come from a country where it was once illegal for us to be able to read,
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
It is a revolutionary thing to read,
Yeah, but-
and not only to read, but to love reading and to read well.
But what you read back then and what you know now, is there a gap between what you were reading, the white Jesus, the this, what we have to read? Is there a difference between what you read and who you are today?
Well, not really, only because my family was very specific about making sure that we had a library at home that was giving me what I wasn't getting in school.
Okay.
So learning that love of reading and seeing other people tell their stories made me want to tell my own stories. I'm also an only child, which means that was how I entertained myself.
Okay.
Reading other people's stories and then starting to learn how to tell my own, which then led me to and understanding the power of that,
Yeah.
the power of story to help we learned when you hear someone's story, you can get so many different themes and topics of discussion can be addressed through storytelling. And so I wanted to harness that power within myself and then learn how to empower other people to do the same for their own stories.
Okay, what's your take on what led you to read, to write?
Well, one of my first memories of writing is that my father was teaching me how to make birds, but then he was telling me, he's like, but those are M's. So M is my first letter of my name. So he always would take drawing or something into to writing, but we always also had an extensive library. My mother and my father are amazing storytellers. Writing was just such a huge part of the culture. There was always a note inside of a bag, a note we had to send letters to people, and so writing was just I don't really think I remember not writing, and I definitely don't remember not reading. But I will say that when I became a teacher, that was what stepped it up to a whole other level. Just because, as you said, Sammy, that what you want from the world, you have to give to the world. So when you want it from your students, you have to give that. You have to show them, because no matter what the world is doing, when you're in the front of that classroom, you are the person who is the example of it. So I would say my parents instilled it, but my students took me to another level, and then being around these amazing people.
I would agree with that too. The students
you
do
come
it.
in from a Puerto Rican background. Now, Puerto Rico has a specific thing like Isla Donde Canta el Coquí. There's a bunch of little stories. What led you to write? And then you say you spoke to your grandfather.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, in thinking back, I think it was really listening to people. My father was a Pentecostal minister.
Yeah.
So
A holy roller.
holy roller, Bible thumping. But I think listening to folks around like a domino table, like listening to folks just sitting in church in the pews, listening to how people talked with each other. I think it was a piece of it. And I think then the kids, right? But once the kids got me into it, what kept me in it was community. Right? So the first open mic we went to, I went with 20 folks, 10 of my students, and some teachers. We went to an open mic in DC, and this woman, Tony Asante Lightfoot, came up and was like, "You're all gonna read." All the kids went, I said, "Yeah, I'm reading, you all reading." So we all read that night. But what happened after that, what kept me writing. It was because all these poets who were sitting in the open mic stood up, went over to those kids who were 14, and were like, "So why'd you choose that line? What was it about that particular? Why'd you decide to say it that way?" They weren't talking to kids as if they were kids. They were talking to kids as if they were writers.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's very unique about the DC literary scene. Very
And
unique.
that community, I was like, I want to be a part of that. Like folks who do that, I can dig.
Okay.
You know.
I got you.
So I mean, currently I run a small museum in DC called the American Poetry Museum, where what we do is push poetry.
Yeah.
So
And it's funny because you all say this as if it's a full-time job. And people don't believe that in writing you could do well. You could do real well in writing. Writing is the world, Mr. Bailey, you're son of the S.O.S. Is your book about a story that says mine can be successful? What do you want to portray in your book?
It certainly can. I mean, who pushed me into writing? Hey, let's be honest, is Suja.
Yeah.
Suja had participation in this book fair over the years where when I was serving as a principal and assistant, he would say, "Listen, could you come and talk with teachers and principals?" So doing that and him pushing it is like, well, you know what? Back in Miami, I'm doing these things with principals and helping them and leading them. So yeah, why not put it into writing so you can help a larger population of people rather than just the people in Miami-Dade County Public School that you work with. So that's what really pushed me into reading. And I'm a strong believer in leadership.
Yeah.
I'm a servant leader. I'm here to serve the people and whatever I can do. Teachers, parents, kids, that's my passion. Like I told people, I've had 30 great years.
Well, if you're a teacher, you gotta love parents, you gotta love kids.
I've had 30 great years in Miami-Dade public schools, and I never regret a day. People don't believe me when I say I never took a sick day in 30 years. but it's reality.
What's your take on it, the fighting?
I'm sorry. I said address my brother right here. You take a sick day, brother. Take a day off, brother.
Now that I'm retired,
I'm not going to applaud for that.
now that I'm retired, I got a whole bunch of days
Yeah,
off.
you can't take sick day leaves when you're gone. You know.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So when I got fired from the post office for making anti-war statements to a congressman's wife, I was afforded. That's right. I'm here.
We want to hear that again.
Yeah. You know, you get punished for telling the truth if it's an anti-war. Look at Julian Assange. Shout out. Okay. So I was afforded the opportunity to spend a summer in Nairobi, Kenya, sponsored by the American Friends Service Committee. You know, the good white folks in the Quaker organization. And activists from all over America convened in Nairobi, Kenya, with activists from all over the continent. And while I was there, it was a 6-week leadership conference. I learned so much. I learned how the IMF and the World Bank was formulated, how they was created to colonize economies. And while I was there, we visited this place called a Nayu House, which is a government building. Actually, ironically, a post office house there. And under the regime of the Moi regime, I believe, I mean, this guy was so oppressive that, you know, you couldn't wear a beard in the city. They associated beards with leftist ideology. And so people was taken there at night, and someone was thrown off the building, someone was tortured. And there had torture chambers that was in the parking lot. And when the regime failed, they tried to destroy it to remove any evidence of it. But it would have compromised the structural integrity of the building. That's the only reason why it was preserved. So now it's a museum at the Nayu House in Nairobi. So I'm in there going to one of the torture chambers, and it's a tour. And for whatever reason, I said, can I stay in this cell for a little while? And they said, well, you can stay in here until the next tour. So they closed the door. I stay in the cell for like 30, 45 minutes. I light my lighter, and I could see that these dying men had written words on the walls. And that's when I realized that, oh shit, you can write, and your words just live on. Like you gone. I'm reading these words, and I took notes, and some of those words ended up in my first play, which was called Prison Poetry. And fortunately for me, I won a literary award for that because I needed that validation. You know, way to go, boy, you can do it. You know, I unfortunately needed that, and I think that our presence here today is to say to everyone in our listening voices that you too can write. You too deserve to tell your story. We all have a story the whole world could benefit from, but oftentimes it's the one story we don't want to talk about, the one we are most uncomfortable about, the one that we don't want anyone to know about. That's that one story. Now, your talent is measured on how many more stories you can come up with, but you got one. And I want to say that our presence here is to validate you now. Validate yourself now. Don't wait for that. And as a writer, I think that a pen is a poor man's weapon, and we need to wield it with power and confidence.
Got you. Cindy, this is going to end tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, yeah. Not excited? I am. I can't wait to see what tomorrow night is going to be.
You know, I got to say, I've been following Book Fair for all those years, and all of you guys are so punchy, man. There's so much
energy. It's the energy.
You know.
And the theme is resistance, and you can hear it.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's very, you know, he's bringing out energy about resistance.
And I gotta say, man, I'm so proud of you, Nani, man. Mr. Bailey Rambo, man, I'm very proud of you. You know, you end up being a principal in Miami for what, 12 years. So I can't wait to read your book. You know. I'm not gonna be. I could try.
Hey, you've got to listen to you whenever I can.
I think it's so powerful that everyone here, when they promoted them to become a writer,
Exactly.
started somewhere with family and then education.
Yeah.
We all are connected to family story, and that being that genesis, and then we all are people who work in service.
Yeah.
Mostly all of us are educators. We've all been teachers for decades.
But you know,
So it's about service and community.
Colored people of any other nation and any other race in the world, we have stories. We have stories that we haven't heard yet.
That's right.
About ourselves.
King, I know we got to wrap up, but can we share our contact information for all the writers here before we go out here?
Go ahead.
Ladies.
So I'm Lisa Pegram, and you can find me on Instagram at Lady Peacock, and you can also pretty much find me at any literary event that happens on this island. I'm going to be front and center,
I
Book
got
Fair
you.
Committee.
Milani Douglas. You can do Melanin Douglas with 2 S's on Instagram or LinkedIn.
Put your mic on.
Sammy Miranda, it's at _raíces_arts on Instagram. And yeah, you can look me up. I have a website as well.
All right. Nani.
Yeah, next weekend you can find it under the House of Nahesi Publishers.
I got you.
Spell it.
House of Nahesi, House Nahesi, Nehesi Publishers.
Publishers, that's right. And you could be found where?
Kimon Freeman on all relevant social media. We Act Radio on all relevant social media, and my book is Nineveh: A Conflict of a Water, and that's Nineveh Nineveh novel.com. Ninevehnovel.com.
Cindy, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night is at S.O.S Cafe at 7 p.m. We're looking forward to seeing you there with bells on. It's a free event. You're going to have the opportunity to have book signings. You're going to hear poetry and prose. And you can already hear the energy this afternoon.
Lots of energy.
Lots of energy. And you can find us at Maarten Book Fair on Facebook.
I got you.
Yes.
22 minutes before the 12 o'clock hour. Fernando Clark steps in at 12. He's going to take you back until the 1 o'clock hour. And Maarten, this is S.O.S. 95 years.